This video is brought to you by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino.
Folks, it was right there. It was right there. You could literally almost touch it, which was a series victory for the first time since May 7th. Pretty much a calendar month since the last time the Mets won a series, which was just 2 games against the St. Louis Cardinals, where the Game 3 was postponed and is pushed out towards the end of the season. The Mets were this close, pardon my French everybody, this close to securing a series victory for the first time in a month. Enter Jake Diekman in the 9th inning to face nothing but towering right-handers, mainly right-handed bats, mainly that being in Ketel Marte, that hit everything off an effing tee this entire series, and the Mets go on to lose, in not only an embarrassing fashion, yet again another blown save. The New York Metropolitans are the only team in Major League Baseball that has now lost not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, but 7 games. 7 games when leading after the 7th inning since May 1st. The Mets as a whole, having a lead after the 7th inning, have a record this season of 13-9. It is nothing short of not only a joke, but an embarrassment, where the offense again rallied early on after the soft-tossing schmuck you call Jose Quintana, of course, gives up meatballs to Ketel Marte and everyone and their mother. You bring in the offense, they get the job done. The bullpen was absolute nails. Danell Nunez, Reed Garrett, even Adam Ottavino, who we know has been piss poor, all does their job properly today. But Jake Diekman was a death sentence there in that 9th inning, folks. We have so much to get into after the Mets wasted a beautiful opportunity to secure a series victory on Darryl Strawberry's biggest day, retiring the number 18, when Straw looked at the team and said, embrace the fans, embrace the culture, everything. The best is yet to come. He was 100% accurate. The best is yet to come with this Mets team, because they are now back to 11 games below 500. They split a series of 4-game set against the Diamondbacks that they had in their grasp. As JD Martinez famously said earlier a couple days ago, how the Mets have been in what feels like every single ball game, but they haven't been able to close it out. They haven't had the clutch gene. Now with the bats starting to get hot, you have no unison. Again, it's just like that damn meme you've seen on Twitter, everybody, when you have the 3 selections that you're trying to click on your iPhone: starting pitching, bullpen, and offense. When you get the starting pitching, you don't have the bullpen. When you have the bullpen, you don't have the offense. When you have the offense, you don't have the starting pitching. Nothing is ever in unison with this Mets team, and we have a lot to get into. We all know that as things currently stand, the Mets are going to be looking like full-blown sellers by the deadline. We're well aware of that, but it's the fact and the manner in which the Mets continue to heartbreak us, the way they continue to lose these ball games, is nothing short of an absolute joke. We're going to get into Mendoza. I'm going to talk about my gripes today, because I have a couple specific gripes with Mendoza today. Not as much, I'm really not all that mad at Jake Diekman, if I'm being frank, because he got thrown to the effing wolves. Wow, color me shocked at Jake Diekman, that is susceptible to the lawn ball, that struggles with his command at times, has to face against some key righty bats for the Diamondbacks to kick off the 9th inning. It's almost like he shouldn't have faced the hottest batter, especially batting against lefties, where he's been raking all season long, and Ketel Marte in the 9th inning. Maybe you could even argue maybe pitching around the guy. All I know is the Mets lost this game. Paul Sewald, of course, is coming in the 9th after having yet another piss-poor interaction with a Mets fan heckling him in front of fans yesterday. Yes, Mets fans, there are plenty of you at games that don't care about your surroundings, and that's why Paul Sewald absolutely hates you, especially during his time in Queens when the Mets threw him out to die when he didn't have a proper arsenal or anything. He has since went on to be a very effective reliever with the Mariners and now turned the Diamondbacks, and I knew for certain as soon as the Mets were losing 5-4 in this ball game, the ball game was over. Because Paul Sewald's coming in the 9th. He works a couple quick pop-outs. He gets a strikeout as well. Again, he might be a soft tosser, but his location is masterful, and the Mets go down today. We have so many updates to get into. I am taking your live callers today because I'm fed up talking about this nonsense you call a Mets team without having someone else to talk about it with. I know we got hundreds of people first chiming in the live chat, and I appreciate every single one of you guys. If you want to have your voice heard, if you you want to vent a little bit, if you want to rant a little bit, if you want to get some things off your chest, or simply ask your boy Wardy a question here in the show, make sure you're chiming in live right now on YouTube. Smash that like and subscribe on. Thank you all, guys. Hey, thank you all so much in advance, guys. Really does mean a lot. I want to get to some of your live callers before we wrap up the show today, folks, so make sure you chime in so that way you can have your voice heard. Andrew, thank you so much for the membership, my man. Happy to have you in here. To everybody who's chiming in live on a replay, how you doing? It's your boy Wardy. I'm not doing too great right now. If you're wondering, Wardy, why is that? It's because I've devoted my life around a Mets team that continues to heartbreak on an everyday basis, and no matter how much I want to or not endure it, I have to regardless. And the Mets, again, have a piss poor weekend when everyone's showing up for Strawberry yesterday, when everyone's showing up on a beautiful Sunday. Plenty of guys have shown up in recent days for the Mets too. The offense is finally starting to get some semblance. They're finally starting to click. And what do the Mets do? Of course, give you a split decision of a 4-game set, because them trying to win a series is just as good as me, quite literally, being a baseball player right now, because the odds simply are not in my favor, nor are they in the Mets' favor to do anything that is going to be positive. So much to break down, so much to get into. Thank you guys all so much for being in here. BR, how you doing? Dominic, great members as always. Very sad. We're all frustrated. Pat Benson, thank you so much, guys. We're going to break down the game inning by inning here shortly. Innings 1 through 9. I'm showing you all the highlights there. We'll get into our amazing sponsors as always at Sober MLB, the best MLB fantasy game out there. Make sure to check them out. Free to sign up. Click the link down below. Enter today, draft your team, and BetUS, America's #1 sportsbook. Check them out as well by, of course, clicking the link in the description with a 125% bonus you'd receive on not your first, not your second, but your first 3 deposits. Thank you so much for doing that as well. Then from there, after we talk all about that, we get into all the numbers, again, to pitching report a little bit with my man Isaac Groffman. Then we will take your live calls. So be on the lookout. This already will probably be at least an hour-long show, if my gut is telling me correctly right now. So in case you guys more so just want the recap of the game, the initial reaction, but don't want to hear the whole long-winded thing, I may cut things off for people on replay, which means, simply put, once the live show's over and everything processes through YouTube, I'm then going to crop out the segment that we start to take live callers, because that might become long-winded for some of you guys that, of course, just want to hear the recap. And again, if you guys do not want me to crop these segments, let me know in the comments on replay. If we hear an overwhelming amount of people that prefer the full-length version, I will continue. If not, I'm going to go back to cropping things probably around a half hour, 40 minutes or so. That way it's more digestible for the average viewer. But for my live viewers, we're letting it rip today, folks. We're not holding anything back. Pat Benson with the $5 holla. Pat says, Stearns seemed to be throwing shit to the wall just to see what sticks. Not true. Not true, actually, with the bullpen evaluation. I will get to that. Why I don't really have too much concerns, per se, with necessarily the guys that have been called up in the pen, but more so the guys that have been sitting here. You know, the veterans, especially, again, in a Jake Diekman, to have him in a one, first and foremost, I was about to give Mendoza so much hell for Adam Ottavino coming in the 8th inning in a 1-run ball game. The same way that Reed Garrett, again, surprised us all and had a huge bounce-back outing. But for the people that say, oh, why didn't you put Reed Garrett in the 9th or anything like that? Reed Garrett had a 10-plus ERA his past 8 appearances. The last thing that we would want in that situation, in hindsight's 2020 now, is probably him there. Now, the question is, was there a better relief option than Jake Diekman in the 9th there? The simple answer is yes. You throw any competent right-hander out there, and you hope they get the job done righty-righty alone. I'm feeling much more confident than a southpaw, again, throwing his slider kind of more down the dick than anything else, to a power-hitting Ketel Marte the way he was in this series. But we're going to get into it all. I'm going to tell you my gripes with Mendoza, how I feel about it, and everything in between. Pat, thank you for that donation. Again, means a lot. Billy Doherty with the $5 holla. Billy says, actually, before we get to Billy, let's get to Scott. Want to have this in order. Scott Greenwald with the $5 holla says, Wardy, how many shots do you have to take before coming on air with these Phil Connors, man, Groundhog Day of a team? Thankfully, I don't have to do anything. Because if we did, then you'd see me flopping around like a fish, probably saying things so much worse than what I already say sober on air as is. So it could be a lot worse, Scott, but we're not going to go there, because even though the Mets continue to stoop low, hit more and more lower bars, and of course hit a lower below pond scum level, your boy Wardy is not going to follow suit in doing exactly that. Dave, how you doing? Great member as always. Straight Talk with Graham, my man. How you doing? Happy to have you in here. Andrew, everybody. Billy Dottie with the $5 holla. Billy says, it does not seem like the priority is winning, especially the way the bullpen was managed. Going to start thinking about the trade deadline. We're all going to be thinking about the trade deadline for a bit, folks. And unless the Mets, again, can really get something going here, it's looking more and more the reality that the Mets will be complete sellers by the deadline, and until they can prove us otherwise. Because we did see some early reporting come out about guys that are speculated that are going to be, at least David Stearns will be listening to calls on. We will be discussing that in the near future on the channel, as always, folks. And give me 1 second before we break down more on the game. I just want to make sure that we have everything properly set up here on Twitter, and then I will go through everything, innings 1 through 9, everything in between. And again, thank you all so much for taking the time, and thank you so much for spending your Sunday with me, because I know you could be doing so many better things this Sunday than talking about a schmuck, talking about this godforsaken Mets team. Surprise, surprise, not win yet another series. The Mets went the entire month of March without winning 3 consecutive games. Pardon me, not March. Entire month of May. I know we're in June now, but it still feels like it's May because the losing continues. June swoons already off to a great start, folks. We are officially 0-2 to kick off June. So to any of those pessimistic fans out there, you're doing great. You know what? Who isn't doing great? Jose Quintana throwing meatballs. I'm done with him. Over 5-year Ray has 8 home runs he's given up in his past 5 starts. Absolutely disgusting. A guy that had trade value heading into the season. The only reason why I didn't discuss him heavier to be dealt by the Mets this past offseason is because I knew the Mets needed arms and they'd be reluctant to do so to part ways with a veteran like him. Quintana looks like a polar opposite of what the Mets initially signed him for 2 years ago. Last year was a much better sample size there in the 75 innings or so. This Jose Quintana, you might as well call him Carlos Carrasco, but throwing with his left arm instead of right, because unfortunately that is the kind of results, or lack thereof, that we find ourselves getting. Just unbelievable. All right, guys. So let's talk about the obvious here. On a scale, Jacob, I'm doing beyond terrible at the moment. If I'm being frank in the chat, beyond terrible, just because of the Mets. Really, Mendoza isn't going anywhere, Jim. Anyone that wants Mendoza fired, you're going to be pissed off all season beyond what you already are. Because I assure you, that's one of the few things that will not be happening, no matter how much you want it to happen or how much you don't want it to happen. So let's start there. So Carlos Mendoza have in many ways a frustrating series of managerial game today. Yes, the big gripe for me is that Drew Smith wasn't available unless it was emergency situations. Drew Smith, of course, was activated off the injury list earlier today, but it's like, okay, it's almost like maybe don't, pardon my French, maybe don't effing activate the guy unless it's a true emergency. Maybe wait another day. Like, is that so difficult to do? Can we just start there? So instead, we need to waste a bullpen spot for a schmuck that we had no intentions of using at any point today. Not because of the fact of, his status, but more so just, what? We don't want to throw him in there yet. Let's have him at least get another day, unless we truly need him. Like, guys get injured and we have to throw an arm out there. Why even do that? Why even consider such a thing? There was 0 point in activating Drew Smith today, should that have been the case. The same way when you look at, again, the bullpen configuration today, no one's talking about Mendoza today if Jake Diekman gets out of that 9th inning unscathed. That is true. The same way, however, I would argue that Jake Diekman at all being considered in the 9th inning, and you guys might call me crazy for what I'm about to say, but I would even argue, truthfully, I would have more of a comfortability if it was an Adrian Hauser, who I know is a multi-innings eater, but still, an Adrian Hauser or some other type of right-hander there in that 9th inning. Because there is nothing to justify Jake Diekman as your lefty going in that matchup there in the 9th inning. Again, it was literally murderer's row is what it felt like he was going to face. Gabby Moreno with the double, Ketel Marte with the 2-run ding-dong on a slider right down the dick, just like the homer he hit off of the soft tossing Quintana, and that's your ball game. All right, that's it in a nutshell. So let me break it down inning by inning, everybody. Let me make sure that this is minimized. Let me make sure that this is all set up, and then we will get rolling with this one. Because I'm not only pissed off, I got a lot to say on this, guys, because this was far from an enjoyable end to a ball game when the Mets again had positives. They had positives in this game. They've had positives throughout this entire stretch. The Mets won 3-7 on the homestand. I told you guys that the Mets won 2-8. You might as well call wraps on the season. We're basically there, so all we have right now is to say, okay, let's just hope they can get better than what they currently are right now, because right now they continue to flounder and they continue to find ways to lose. And again, the most frustrating takeaway for me today in a nutshell is that the Mets had it, they lost it, and you had offensive production. This was yet again another day where yesterday, let's not forget yesterday, again, the Mets rally the way that they did. Of course, they had themselves the 3 runs yesterday, or pardon my friend, maybe that was a couple days ago. I'm getting my games confused. It was a couple games ago where the Mets were down by 3, rallied back to tie the game 3, and then they imploded from there. Pat Benson with the... I'm sorry, what? Pat Benson. And why was Buck fired? Okay, if there's one good positive that comes from today, is you guys making my evenings the way you do. Pat Benson with the beyond generosity. I'm going to just tell you first and foremost, Pat, thank you so much. You know, I got a kiddo on the way, and we got big things happening in my personal life outside of doing this full time, and that helps in more ways than you could possibly imagine. Everybody, can we please give a round of applause and a thank you, a sincere thank you to Pat Benson in the live chat on YouTube with a $300 donation. That was unbelievably generous, my friend. Thank you so much. I'm truly taken back by that. Seriously. And I love that your simple comment with the $300 donation is, and why was Buck fired? Buck was fired because Billy Epler was not happy that Buck Showalter wouldn't play Daniel Vogelback consistently the way he wanted to after, again, Billy was trying to save face with the lopsided Colin Halderman trade. That's one. Two, Buck Showalter, if he was manager of the Mets right now, I wouldn't expect much differences in results. David Stearns wants a guy that he can help gel as a young manager. Still with, again, Mendoza having a lot of his paws on things, but to not have a grizzled vet of a manager on a win-now team when this is far from a win-now team. That's the reality of it. The Mets want to make sure that they had a guy that they can work with for multiple years on end potentially, then a grizzled vet and a manager that's stubborn in his way of thinking, won't deviate from that much, and struggle mightily with the Mets in a core group where they tried to win it all last year. That's where it comes from. And a voice in a locker room also gets stale, bear that in mind. But simply put, no. Buck Showalter, if he was here right now, we're still dealing with the same nonsense. You guys watched the 2023 season, right? I'm not the only one that watched that. You know, remember when the Mets were underwhelming all season? If you're not named Tommy Pham, you didn't show up at all offensively for the most part, right? And pitching was underwhelming too. So miss me with the nonsense about, oh, Buck Showalter would make a difference right now. Far from it. I would even argue as well that I think things would be probably around the same. I can't see them being drastically better because it's not like Carlos Mendoza's managerial decisions have single-handedly impacted the Mets negatively each day. It's been their lack of consistency with their offense, and then what we've seen in recent weeks, a lack of consistency now, not as much in their offense each day, but more so on the bullpen front. When you lose a Brooks Raley the way that they have, when you've lost Edwin Diaz, and which when Edwin was healthy, he was far from dominant, again, was blowing saves left and right for the Mets, unfortunately. So a lot of things go into why the Mets are free-falling the way that they are right now, but a managerial change, Buck Showalter right now makes zero sense. Truthfully, does not make any sense to be here, and I will stand by that. Again, two things can be true. Buck, again, maybe he shouldn't have been fired in the way that he was. At the same time, though, he doesn't make any sense for this current Mets team. Buck Showalter wants to manage a team that, of course, is going to push to win a championship right now as he's not getting any younger. This Mets team this season will be lucky, and I said it again, I'll say it again, at this rate, we'll be lucky to make playoffs. AZ with the $2 haul. Thank you so much, my man. He says, so here we are once again with the same damn crap. Yep, step right up and meet the Metropolitans, baby. The unfortunate reality. Once more, Pat Benson, love you so much, my man. Thank you so much for not only being a longtime follower and supporter on the channel, but going out of your way to drop such a generous donation. So thank you again, my friend. You have made my evening when the Mets have done everything in their possible imagination to really heartbreak me. Wardy, is that the highest donation you've ever received? The highest donation I've actually received has at least been $500. Between $500 and $1,000. I'm forgetting on the individual. I've had multiple individuals in the past, especially during the breaking news live shows, like when we've signed Scherzer, when we signed like everyone the other couple off seasons ago in that lockout year. A lot of awesome stuff happened then too, and I'm greatly appreciative of everyone that's went out of their way to donate. You know, it's never something I ask, but it is something that is always appreciated. So thank you so much for that, my friend. Really does mean a lot. All right, guys, that's enough of my rant. What the hell's going on, Jesus? You said it best. What the hell is going on? Let's get into it. Rapid fire. Bunch of things that we need to let off our chest. Then we'll break down the ball game. Okay. Again, 7th loss for the Mets since the start of May 1st. After leading beyond 7 innings. Worst in Major League Baseball. 13-9 now after leading past 7 innings throughout the whole season. Horrendous. One of the worst in baseball, if not the worst. Mets wasting a beautiful ceremony. Darryl Strawberry, just want to give a quick moment to say how much it was fantastic to see Strawberry's ceremony yesterday. It was awesome to hear everything they had to say. Again, Darryl has truly come a long way throughout not only his career, but now his post-playing career. Of course, had that terrible heart attack over this past year or so that we're all aware of. And it's great to see him not only, you know, healthy, but vibrant, and looked like he truly enjoyed having his day now alongside with Doc and others, and with all the greats now in Mets history. If there's one thing Steve Cohen has been doing doing right since becoming owner is paying homage to the past players that paved the way to shape the organization for what it is today. With the little success they've had, but again, when you look at that little success, you have to appreciate those players during said success, because we know we didn't have it all that often, nor did we have it all that long. Doc should have been here beyond, of course, his tenure, and he even went out of his way to apologize for ever leaving Mets fans, which I thought was a very sweet thing to say. So shout out, as always, not Doc, if I didn't say that already. Daryl, shout out Straw again for his ceremony. Everything about the number 18 retirement yesterday. It's a damn shame the Mets couldn't show up until it was too little too late, as they then tried to rally and lost 10-5 yesterday in Game 3 of the 4-game set. Final updates, Drew Smith, of course, was recalled. That we saw, not that it meant anything, because he wasn't even available, unless it was emergency situations, because why does it matter, right? Josh Walker was sent down. Francisco Alvarez continues to progress in his rehab in Double-A Binghamton. He will be back with the Mets as soon as next weekend for that London series there against the Phillies, which is very exciting. Kodai Senga, as well, is continuing to work his way back. He's been throwing each day at Citi Field. We'll see when he starts to ramp up and actually start throwing off a mound again, and we'll go from there, everybody. But enough of this. Let's talk about it. I'm pissed off. You are too. And I want to get to your callers, guys. Again, we are taking live callers in the live show for anyone that is first chiming in that didn't know that prior. I want to hear your thoughts. I want to hear your frustrations. I want to hear your questions. And I just want to hear fellow Mets fans let it rip on a day that we're all beyond pissed off. So, all right. It starts there in the first. Ketel Marte with a home. I'm going to speed run this two guys, okay? I'm not going to really kind of take my time. I'm going to speed run the game real quick. Then we're going to get on with our next segment. Ketel Marte with the leadoff home run because of a meatball slider you call Jose Quintana throwing in the first. Gurriel with a home run as well, makes it 2-0, and that does it. Already batting practice given up by the Mets in the first. In the second, we see Suarez with a walk, Blaze with a double, Newman with an RBI ground out, Ketel Marte with a hit by pitch. Ketel Marte felt like he got on base every single time imaginable today. Marte again gets on base there, nothing else happens. It's 3-0 D-backs lead here as we then get to the third. A Grichuk hit by pitch after 2 outs allows him on. Nothing else transpires. In the bottom of the third, the Mets start to kick up their offense. Tyrone Taylor with a double. Torrens, who of course made his first start today after being acquired from the Yankees as the Mets' new backup catcher until Alvarez returns, has himself a walk. Alonso with an RBI single gets a scoring started for the Mets here in the third. 3-1. Brandon Nimmo with a 2-run triple ties the ball game. Brandon Nimmo with a massive gapper there. And then we see, yes, JD Martinez follows him up with his own triple. Back-to-back triples for the Metsies here. JDM continues to stay hot in a series in which he's had home runs that we saw back-to-back. And now we see a triple there. JDM also did have a double yesterday. So he has essentially hit for the cycle in this series as a whole and has been quite productive every single time out there over the past stretch of games. Love that from the hitting savant and former World Series champion JD Martinez. JD gives the Mets a 4-3 lead as we head to the top of the fourth when Newman with a single, 2 outs later, Ketel with a walk, Curl with a walk, but Jose Quintana somehow pulls some Houdini magic out of his ass and gets out of that bases loaded jam unscathed. In the bottom of the fourth, Mark Vientos with a walk, McNeil with a double play, then ends the inning, very on par for Jeff. At the top of the fifth, Nunez then comes in. Danil Nunez gives up a double to Grichuk, but strikes out a pair for a clean inning. Danil Nunez looked fantastic with fastball and breaking stuff today. We'll talk about him here shortly. Then at the top of the sixth, we see Danny Young come in, gives up a double there to Ketel. So both relievers in back-to-back innings give up an early double to the opposing batter, but get out of those innings both unscathed. Great job there by Danny Young. In the bottom of the sixth with 2 outs, DJ with his first single in a minute snaps his 0-for-17 skid for DJ Stewart, a.k.a. Teddy Bear, as they love to call him. Tell me he doesn't look like a teddy bear. He really does. Then we see Harrison Bader come in to pinch run, but to no avail. The Mets don't score there. In the top of the seventh, Reed Garrett, who has posted over a 10-year array in his past 8 appearances, looks like the Reed Garrett of old earlier this season again. He strikes out the side all via the splitty, and that looked fantastic. The Diamondbacks struck out today a boatload of times. I'm pretty sure the Mets hit a season high or close to a season high in strikeouts. They had 13 Ks as a whole among their pitching staff prior to Jake Diekman entering the ninth today. So I got to see if Diekman had a strikeout or not. That'll dictate if they got back to their season high or whatever it was. No less, Reed Garrett with a much-needed bounce-back outing, and the Mets getting a much-needed 7th inning. A clean work there from Reed Garrett, unfortunately, would still hurt them in the end. Not Reed Garrett's fault, but it would be how this game ends. Adam Ottavino, again, in a 1-run ball game. 1-2-3 8th inning with a pair of strikeouts. Love that from Adam. Wasn't expecting that either. I really thought we were going to blow it at that point with the way he's been pitching. Great to see both him and Garrett get their head out of their ass a little bit. And as we get to the top of the ninth, Jake Diekman comes in. He gives up that double to Moreno. Of course, Ketel Marte with the 2-run home run on the slider. Inner half down, just a meatball right down the dick pretty much. And that does it for the ball game, everybody. The Mets go on to lose by a final score of 5-4. So very frustrating to say the least. We're all very aware of that. I know we got very frustrated Mets fans in here, everybody. So I guess my question is, guys, what is your biggest takeaway after explaining the series like this? Is there any semblance of optimism? Is it pure pessimism? Where do you Mets fans stand after seeing the Mets blow this series when they had a victory right in the bag, right in the grasp, the way they've had many games heading to the 8th and 9th innings this past month, in a position to win, and they blow it in a dramatic, very Metsian fashion? For my people that are watching this on replay as well, let me know in the comments down below. What is your biggest takeaway after playing this 4-game set? What is your frustration level? Are you still feeling somewhat optimistic? Are you full-blown pessimism? Are you saying trade everybody and their mother? Are you saying, okay, I actually like some positives we've been seeing. We just need to snap out of this rut and this losing culture? And I will say this, folks. The losing culture goes directly in hand with Citi Field. The Mets will get nowhere at this ballpark until you prove me otherwise. I love Citi Field. I love so many aspects to it. I love that you don't need to watch the Mets to have a good time at Citi Field. They love the food, love the entertainment, love all that. What I absolutely hate, truthfully, is the Mets playing at Citi Field. If you're wondering why that is, it's because they've had such a lack of success at Citi Field since its inception back in 2008, 2009 or so. And when it comes to being a hitter's park, it's far from it. So I personally have more gripes with Citi Field by the day, because I know that this damn Mets team was located elsewhere, but we were all still fans. It was still a New York-based team, that they would probably have more success than what they currently have. And no, that's not a stretch to say. That's factually correct. Look up the numbers. The Mets have struggled mightily at home, and yet again now, 3-7. You remember when they started 0-5 this season? All home. See the trend here, folks? It's almost like the Mets, one, still struggle with their fan base at times, which we all know, and two, struggle where the batter's eye can certainly be hard to see and really redirect your eyes. Anthony Recker, former Metropolitan, good friend of mine, again, MLB Network analyst currently. Reck told me, again, especially Citi Field during his time as a player there, I know Reck was far from the best player on the team, but still, the point I'm trying to make is it was very difficult for him personally, and he said that it was a common theme with guys in the clubhouse when trying to see balls clear at Citi Field. A lot to get into. Priest, you better call in when we take our live callers. Absolutely, Priest. If you watch all 162 games, realize you're spending 18 days a year watching the Mets. That's before an extra innings. Don't waste your time and don't feel bad for doing better things with your time. 100% agree. That's why I know plenty of you schmucks, and I don't mean schmucks in an offensive way. I say schmucks with every type of term possible, whether it's positive, negative, indifferent. I even have formerly had merch, and I will again. We're going to have to pick that up again soon. Merch that in Mets font said schmuck, because I just love saying the word. But to all you beauties, if you want to, however I want to label you guys, as we are now, of course, getting out of focus here with the camera for a second, what I do want to explain to you all here just for a second is that, yes, there are plenty of you guys probably watching right now that either didn't watch the whole game or didn't watch the game because you're coming for the recap, right? Because you're like, I'm not going to go and sit and watch that on replay. The Mets lost. They blew it in the ninth. Why is there any interest level? Exactly. And that's why I still appreciate you guys taking the time to chime in here when our team is unfortunately free-falling the way that they certainly have been pretty much since the start of the season. I mean, let's keep it a buck. Put the 12-3 run aside. They've been nada. They've been horrendous. They really have. And they have been making me lose hair faster than you could possibly imagine. And your boy Wardy's probably going to be, cue the SpongeBob meme. Bald. I'm not overly balding or anything, but I just feel like it's going to happen so quick with the way this team frustrates me and, again, stresses me the hell out on a daily basis. But, all right, guys. Couple of things before we get on to your live callers, because I want to get into it all. If you're watching this on replay, I won't cut things off yet. We're going to get into some key numbers here, folks. But before I break down some numbers for you all, and before I get into some comments, so why are other teams coming to Citi Field and don't complain and do okay? That is where I think the fan base aspect honestly comes into play to a degree. Well, one, bear in mind, the Mets play at Citi Field more than any other team in baseball. They have to play at least 80 games there, right, each season. That isn't the same as a team coming into town, say, for 3 or 6 games a year. It's just not the same dynamic, especially when they're on a heater. Secondly, also need to bear in mind the fan aspect. Daryl said it best. The fans are going to let you hear it, through the boos, through the cheers, everything. This fan base is like no other. And I know that there are a lot of shitty fans on every single team. But there's something being noted that Paul Sewell going out of his way yet again, where the reason why it has more pessimism and negativity against the Mets organization is not only on how they utilized him, pretty much gave up on him when he didn't really have a chance to fine-tune his arsenal, in which he's been such a productive reliever since leaving the Mets, but more so the fans, where he truly felt that he never had a chance to win them over in any situation, even when he had his slivers of success in Queens. That goes a long way. So for the fans here that think, the fans don't make an impact on the players and how they hear them, or even trying to attract players, trust me, they absolutely do. So bear those things as well. It's hard to say. 100% is City. I'm actually really curious. Elgood, I'm not showing that yet until the kiddo's here, because I'm having a specific announcement for that I'm very excited for. And I will share that with you all when the time comes when they are here. So be on the lookout. Pardon me, everybody. Before we break down more on the ball game, though, let's take a quick word from our amazing sponsor on the channel that many of you guys and gals know very well, our great friends at Sorare MLB. Because in case you guys don't know Sorare MLB, Sorare is the best MLB fantasy game out there. It is free to play, but you, of course, can make money and spend money by buying, selling, and trading unique virtual cards with your friends and with people on the marketplace. And guys, as I've broken down plenty, Sorare MLB, what makes this the best fantasy game out there is because you are being your own GM, building your own roster with virtual cards that you can upgrade to then enter various tournaments. And in these tournaments, they give you various prizes, some of which are easier to hit and do well than others based on the type of capacity of players in them. But you guys can enter weekly tournaments at least on every Monday and every Friday or so. So I'm going to show you guys our tournament that we are entering for tomorrow and draft your team. But if you do well in these tournaments based on how the players perform in real life, you win actual dollars. We're talking hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. Cards to upgrade your team versus the cards you currently have in your team. Or if you want to part ways with those cards, you certainly can too. Winning free Mets tickets. We gave away a bunch of Mets tickets on the channel the past month, all just for signing up to Sorare MLB by clicking the link down below and entering drafting your team and entering a tournament. Is that simple. And as I'm going to show you guys right now what we have rocking with Sorare MLB, this is, pardon me, I have the wrong thing minimized there. This is all the way to the left, unfortunately. My roster in my tournament currently, I'm ranked 4,300th out of roughly 11,000. Edwin Diaz being on the IL when I had him, but certainly didn't help. Gunnar Henderson was leading the way for me with 40 points. We had also Joey Ortiz from the Brewers, 33. Brandon Nimmo, 26, but not all that much more there. So we're going to enter, again, our next tournament here. Tournaments officially begin tomorrow, folks, so make sure you enter today if you haven't already. We are going to be setting up our Common All-Star Tournament, which, again, begins tomorrow. And I got a bunch of really good starting pitching options, but I'm going to start with my man Zach Wheeler, who unfortunately left Queens, not because of anything we did, but because Brody Van Wagen, the Wolfhounds, can go F themselves. Adley Rutschman, going to put him in there. Love me some Adley, love me some Gunner. Brandon Nimmo, going to put him in the outfield spot. Joey Ortiz has been playing great baseball for the Brewers, the rookie. Put him back in there. And Tyler Glass now is my flex player, my other one. I'm actually really liking this roster outside of Diaz because, of course, Diaz is still working his way back off the injury list. Diaz, of course, did throw at Citi Field today. It feels more, honestly, like a Phantom IL doing our best Billy Epler impression, which every team does. Again, the only reason why Epler got penalized last year is because someone was basically a whistleblower and threw him under the bus. Cough, cough, buck. I don't know. Just something to think about. But that's the lab we're rocking, everybody. So, again, good luck to everybody that enters your weekly tournaments with Sorare MLB. Again, officially begins tomorrow. And next time we do our show, folks, I will show you all how you can also purchase on the marketplace and upgrade your cards should you wish. But heading back into this one now, I want to get into some numbers. Stats are, let's see. We're talking about his stats are some of the worst in the MLB. What are we talking about, Priest? If so, enlighten me. Let's see. Kurt in the chat says, my thing is that if Citi Field were a serious issue, you would hear more players, current especially, and former, complaining about it here. You just don't. So, see, the reason why I disagree is because there's nothing the players can do. There's nothing the players can do. They can complain about all they want, but the Mets aren't going to make a new stadium or make drastic changes, to manipulate it in a way, because they've already made slight changes. The Mets already brought in the right field a little bit for their new club that they've had over the past year there in the right field area, that luxury club that they have there. So they've already moved right field in a little bit, which makes it easier, especially for home run hitters, to hit to the right side. But the bigger problem, again, though, has just been the overall configuration, the weather that comes with playing in New York, especially earlier in the season and later in the fall. There are a lot of factors that go into it, is what I'm getting at. But point is, though, is that is one of many that goes in hand with the Mets' struggles. It isn't surprising to me. Again, the Mets 3-7 on the homestand. That goes beyond just the fact of who they played and the Dodgers and the Giants and the D-backs, and also 0-5 to kick off the season at home, too. Again, just something to think about, some food for thought, if you will. And again, if you guys don't think it's that big of a deal, that's perfectly fine. I'm just telling you it is certainly a factor. And I miss Shea too. I only had the privilege of being to Shea a couple times as a kid, and I absolutely loved it there. I know, truthfully, I know a lot of Mets fans labeled Shea Stadium as kind of a dump, but it was our dump, if that makes sense. It was far from fancy, but it was gorgeous on the outside as well. I love the neon designs that they had. I just loved every aspect about Shea Stadium, even when, again, it was far from perfect, and it was outdated the way that it was. I understood building a new stadium and everything, but I really wish that the Mets could have themed Citi Field more in a way that kind of pays homage to Shea in that sense, because it really doesn't. Because I know that they themed it, of course, more so focused on the Brooklyn Dodgers and Jackie Robinson under the Wilpons, obviously, than they did having focused on previous success in Queens with the Mets and at Shea Stadium. But getting on a tangent right now there, folks. So everybody, let's talk now on the pitching, because the pitching was frustrating today. And I'm not going to sit here and fixate on Jose Quintana much, because all I have to say about Jose Quintana is I'm waiting for when this man is out of the rotation, whether it's by the deadline for a bag of baseballs at this rate, or if he can really get himself together and the Mets really configure what they want to do from there. They have starting pitching options, we know, two of which that'll be impacting this rotation so much better than Jose Quintana. First of which is Kristen Scott, second of which is Jose Buto, both of which should be in this rotation, and I expect both back, hopefully, by the time we're done with that London trip, because if not, your boy's going to rant about it, because both of those starters should be in this rotation, should be eating innings over a soft tossing lefty that needs pinpoint accuracy, which is a hard thing to do consistently to get the kind of outs that he needs to get. But when we talk about the pitching here for a second, everybody, and I don't know where we're at in the like count, but if you guys could continue to smash that like and subscribe on, would really mean a lot. My man Isaac Roppin, my little pitching analysis that gives me pitching info after every single game. Shout out Isaac on Twitter, as always. He texts me effing Groundhog Day. That's literally how it feels. I know someone in the chat earlier sent a donation of essentially the same exact thing, but no less, appreciate everybody shouting in. Now let's get into a bit on the pitching here. What's that today? I'm not even going to talk about Jose Quintana. He just didn't have it. He was throwing meatballs. He wasn't locating well. Again, if he does not have pinpoint accuracy on his pitches to hit those corners, he's going to get his absolute tits lit. And as we take a look now, I'm so mad I can't stream after this loss. Yeah, it sucks. You guys think I want to talk about the team right now, but the show goes on. Show will always go on, everybody. And I will say this, guys, just bear in mind, if the Mets free fall so bad where it's like truly everyone's tapped out of wanting to really focus on a game recap and stuff, I'm then going to start to transition the content into still being Mets and current events related, but I may deep dive more into certain other areas sooner. So again, I'm not going to sit here and cover the Mets games consistently if they become complete sellers at the deadline and we're just focusing on the kids from there. I will cover probably the games that should be covered, more entertaining games, but especially when you're going to have a lot of BS losses the way we saw last year post-deadline, I will mix things up more and stream more about the state of the Mets as a whole, looking at the future, looking at potential trades and moves that could be out in the offseason, those kind of things. I'll really work it around what I think you guys will care about most and not hearing the same nonsense every single day should the Mets continue to free fall. But for the time being, it's still early June. There's still so much baseball to be had prior to the deadline. The Mets haven't committed anything yet on what they're going to be doing by that point. So until we really know for certain what the Mets will be doing, once we kind of have a pen to paper, if that makes sense, then I will make the decision from there to how I'm going to go about content and things of that nature. But for the time being, post games will roll on. I've been wanting to do pre-games. I've been wanting to do watch parties, but there hasn't been a single damn reason to do them consistently with the way that this Mets team has been playing, or should I say lack thereof. But on the positive front, what were the positives today, Wardy, you might ask? Well, let's start on the bullpen. Danilo Nunez was fantastic. Again, he looked dominant throughout his first appearances, first couple. Let's break down what worked so well, including a 44% K percentage throughout his 10.1 innings of work thus far. Tremendous stuff there. Doing his best Reed Garrett impression when Reed started the season with the Mets, too. He has a high arm angle on the fastball and averages around 2,500 RPMs, which is in the 93rd percentile in fastball spin. It is an elite pitch early on there in all Major League Baseball for Danilo Nunez. It also has been above, again, we're talking IVB, which is for vertical break, of 16.4 inches. Tremendous stuff. So just for some context here, Danilo Nunez has been in the Mets organization for years. Pretty sure the Mets actually lost him in a Rule 5 draft and then reacquired him after an injury back in the 2020 current season. Nunez, though, has been fantastic when called upon, and that's the difference between David Stearns and a Billy Epler. Billy Epler didn't know pitching talent in the farm, especially in the bull, that he had internally to save his life, versus a David Stearns can go and break down everyone that's in the farm from AA and AAA and really see what we have there, what untapped potential can be, and guys that can make sense, and again, limited sample sizes, just knowing that they're productive for a certain amount of time or for a specific matchup. That is what David Stearns does so well on the bullpen front especially. And yeah, Nunez is looking legit, Zach. I think it's fair to say he really is looking solid. Again, not a lot of positives to take away from a loss, of course, but he was certainly one of them. We saw that there. The slider was thrown with a spiked grip, which is very interesting. It gives him a lot of drop and not as much sweep. So again, instead of it really kind of being that padded, what we see the sweeper with, say, Adam Ottavino, that soft sweep that really cuts left, we're looking at more of a harder drop there. So again, you're more so down that way. It's an interesting way to evaluate the differences in these type of sliders from one pitcher to the next. The pitch had so much vertical movement that sometimes goes to his arm slide instead of glove slide. Even when, I should say, it has been misclassified as a changeup a few times. He also has a sinker 3% of the time, which can be a nice bridge between the fastball and the slider if need to be called upon. Danny Young had a productive day. He gave up the double, but that's fine. 20 inches of horizontal movement on both the sinker and the sweeper. 40 inches difference between those two pitches is not only ridiculous, but simply is unfair to the opposing hitter. That's why Danny Young has been so effective when called upon for the Mets in his sample sizes this season. And Reed Garrett threw 0 fastballs in his inning, and that's why he had his success, baby. Love that Isaac said basically the same thing I was thinking. No heater, we're looking good. No heater, no problem. Heater, we have a problem. Reed Garrett has had his success at the MLB level with the Mets by putting that four-seam fastball in his back pocket as his third or fourth pitch, not as a number one or number two. When Reed Garrett has unfortunately been exposed of recent and players haven't been swinging and missing on the splitty as they did a lot earlier in the year, he has had to defer to that four-seam fastball, which is a meatball, especially if he doesn't locate it well. That's why he's giving up the bombs. That's why he gave up the bomb to Jock and Christian Walker. Just didn't have the precise location he was looking for. But thankfully, Reed Garrett had the splitty working. It was nasty, and he got a hella swing and misses, struck out the side. That's a positive. Sean Reed-Foley just did what he needed to do there then in relief for Jake Diekman, who Diekman, of course, gave up a slider right down the dick there. Nice down and in to Mr. Ketel Marte, which blew it and lost us the ball game. No Name, have a great time, my man. Happy to have you in here. Thank you so much for coming in. Heater has no movement, nothing. It's just flat. And also struggles with their heater, where again, it can be lively, but it's just flat. It's a guy that's still out for multiple weeks on end in AAA, but a guy that is electric with his overall arsenal, Shintaro Fujinami. That's another guy that, again, when right, looks great, but that fastball can be so flat. So even if you're touching 100 on the gun, it only means so much if you're not locating, if you're throwing it right down the dick. You know what I mean? That's just how it works, especially in the case there are flat heaters. But another June swoon, we can only pray otherwise, Sanders, but right now I understand it's not looking good. June swoon started earlier this year. Well, we had miserable May, so hopefully we get a better June. A joyful June would be ideal. But if it's going to be a June swoon, then it's going to be a June swoon. This is Metropolitan Baseball. I'm not expecting us to light up the lamp and win games consistently. I hope it. I'm not expecting it. And that's why, again, it's a broken record every time that we've been on here for over a month straight this season. The fact that we get little views when we get wins is not because of the fact that, the Mets won. Okay, that means nothing. But because the Mets have won so few and far in between, I feel like Mets fans don't even know how to go about that because they just know they don't want to get their hopes up. Why even bother chiming in? Why even bother caring when you know they may just lose the next day and go back to, say, 10 games or 11 games below 500? I don't blame any of you guys for having that thought process because I find myself with you to a degree. I understand how piss poor it can be. I understand the frustration. It's one thing to be watching every day. It's another to revolve your life around a team the way that I do. It's brutal. It's brutal. I was poolside today enjoying myself, and I stopped being poolside again to talk about the Mets today. I'm not complaining on that front. I'm very grateful for the life that I live. I would just like to start there. But I absolutely hate the fact that every single weekend, this Mets team is the reason why I have negative weekends. It's not because of my current life. It's just because of them. They're the only reason why. All the poor schmucks that went out of their way yesterday to the Darryl Strawberry retirement day. You poor bastards had to witness a Mets team that are now 1-9 this season on Saturdays. My man Anthony Rivera, good friend of mine, host of the Subway to Shape podcast, one who I'd like to incorporate more of the channel this year, but I purposely haven't been able to because the Mets haven't played at all good baseball to warrant having certain discussions we had. And Anthony has a ticket plan for just Saturdays. That poor SOB. I feel so bad for him. I told him change the ticket plan. There's no reason to be in there. No reason. And we were on our way back after a 2-game winning streak, thinking we'd be 4 games within 500 end of June. What is that's the things have 100%. There's nothing personal against Evan, but again, I can be happy about short-term victories all I want, but it doesn't mean that I think the Mets are going to go on a heater right now. They need to prove it. The Mets are 3-7 in their past. Their home stretch, they're at home. They have been piss poor, and they're 11 games below 500. And lie to me with the thought process this Mets team is going to go on a run. They need to win 3+ games in a row. They need to win 2 out of 3. They need to win a series. They need to do these things to get where they need to be. And I don't know if the London trip is going to be what sparks a fire under their ass, because we have a Washington Nationals team that we're playing up next that has been playing competent baseball this year, just snapped a little losing skid that they had. CJ Abrams is playing at a tremendous level, and Mackenzie Gore's pitching against us. It might not go great because he, again, has pitched well against the Mets plenty in the past, and I'm just not looking forward to it. I'm really not, everybody. And on the offensive end, let's just take a brief look here at the numbers because, again, the Mets did what they needed to do on the offensive end today. I know 4 runs isn't the best thing in the world, but the offense was not the issue. This was a tight ball game where, again, the Mets just did not have Jake Diekman throw to Ketel Marte. We're talking about a series victory right now and talking about being 9 games below 500 instead of 11 and trending in the right direction. But no, this is the Mets. This is why we're talking about it. So let's see. We wound up with a 7-3 homestand, I think. Wardy, when do we do the countdown to blow up? I think the countdown has already begun. I think we're all in agreement there. I'm under the mindset currently that I expect the Mets to blow it up big time by the deadline. I don't know why you would think otherwise with the way that this team is free-falling. However, all it takes is for the Mets to, again, find some semblance, find some consistency to make things more interesting for David Stearns, who will still be selling by the deadline, but you can sell guys some short-term options and still have success this season. Both can be true. There are guys in the minors that will help this Mets team better than the guys on the roster right now. Maybe not a lot, but there are some. There are guys worthy of giving an opportunity to a degree. The same way that I'd argue that if the Mets are going to trade away some guys, they should also buy, even in a year where they will more than likely be more sellers than buyers, because there's a young, controllable talent out there that can help this Mets team for 2025 and beyond. And look no further than a rival in the division, the Miami Marlins, with guys like Jesus Luzardo at the top of the list. That is an arm I want every single day of the week. Yes, you might have to pay a little bit of a king's ransom for, but by all means, that is the type of starter you do it for with multiple years of control. Again, still untapped potential, lots to love there. But on the offensive end, everybody, we look at the Mets as a whole, then we're going to get to your live callers. And before we get to the live callers, I will cut everything off for people on replay. Francisco Lindor went 0 for 4 today. I know Priest is happy about that. 227 average, 688 OPS on the season. That snaps his hitting streak of 10 or 11 games. Pete Alonso 1 for 4 with the run scored. 2 strikeouts, 239 and an RBI, 239 average, 786 OPS. Brandon Nimmo with the 2-run game-tying triple today. His one and only hit, 212 average, 723 OPS. JD Martinez is a dog. JD Martinez is looking exactly how I'd hope he would, where he had himself the RBI triple to give the Mets the lead 4-3. 279 average, 812 OPS. A true hitting savant that's going to hit no matter where he is or what time of year it is. DJ Stewart 1 for 3. Snappy's 0 for 17 skid. 190 average, 699 OPS. Harrison Bader 0 for 1 there after a pinch running that we saw later in the ballgame. 270 average, 680 OPS. Mark Vientos, his first 0 for in a minute, it feels like. 321 average, 984 OPS. Tyrone Taylor 1 for 3 that we saw there with the double. 235 average, 597 OPS. And we saw Jeff McNeil 0 for 3. Color me surprised. It's just a matter of it's a matter of when, not if McNeil will be off this team this year. I promise you it'll happen before we get to 2025. He's a ticking time bomb on his way out of here. Luis Torrens went 0 for 2 with the run scored, 0 hits, 333 average, kick off his Mets tenure after being traded here. Final thing I want to get to, everybody. 2 final things I want to get to. It was a tight game. In my opinion, there was no reason to take Hugh out early and go bullpen there. Should have used Sean Reed-Foley to start. I question Mendy's use of the pitching staff, as do I. I'll say this, Jose Quintana was far from brilliant today. I don't blame Mendy not feeling comfortable. with Jose Quintana because it's really hard to because the guy throws meatballs and he's a soft tossing lefty. However, I agree, though, that I do think that the configuration could have been better, and I would even make the argument that, again, putting the right-hander, some type of right-hander there in the 9th inning, not Adam Ottavino back-to-back innings, I wouldn't go there, of course not, but I would really consider even a guy like Adrian Hauser, even if it means it may hurt his availability for the next day or so, I would still do that, especially if it's just one inning. Adrian Hauser might be far from great, but he's been fantastic in recent relief for the Mets, 1. And 2, when you just need him to get some outs there, I have faith in his ability to do that there versus a key lefty-righty matchup where it's just so easy to see as a batter, let alone a guy like Ketel Marte who's just red hot at the plate. Out of all righty batters, Christian Walker and Ketel Marte, those are the guys to avoid, and the Mets did anything but it there in the 9th inning. Anything but. But there's another positive to get into, everybody. Let's talk briefly on the third base end, because there's a guy that you guys have probably seen in the highlights of the video today saying, that's minor leagues. What's going on there? Yes, Barry Bonds. I'm sorry. Brett Baty hit 2 ding-dongs today in AAA Syracuse, guys. The man just got sent down. He was already on a heater. Brett Baty is quite literally the most dominant player in AAA history for the Syracuse Mets, but he hasn't even played 40 games at the AAA level, so it makes sense why he's going to get his reps there. He's looking like that quad A player, but I do have faith in Brett Baty, and here's why. The reason why I have faith in Brett Baty is because, 1, we were calling Mark Vientos a quad A player. And Mark Vientos has blossomed now after being in a limited role, after striking out a lot in that limited role that we saw last year, as looking like a guy that really can be a mainstay on this roster every single day for the foreseeable future. The Mets have struggled with their player development and rushing up prospects in recent years. There's no denying that. But there's also no denying the untapped potential and the clear talent that Brett Baty has. He's already an above-average lead defender at third base. The stats will tell you that with the way he's flashed the leather, doing his best Gold Glove impression out here. And I'm telling you, Baty's defense is looking so good at third that even David Wright would be jealous in certain parts. And don't get offended by that. David Wright is, of course, the best third baseman to ever play at the hot corner for the Mets, but David Wright was far from a dominant and consistent, strong, positive defender. And if you guys watched David Wright throughout his career and you went through the numbers, you would know that. Staying on the point here of Brett Baty, he ripped 2 bombs today in AAA. So my question to everybody watching this live and for people that watch on replay, when is Brett Baty going to get the call back up? How long do you think the Mets are going to wait before considering a Brett Baty call-up back with the Mets? Do you think it's going to be a month from now? Do you think it's going to be post-trade deadline? Do you think it'll be in a week? How soon or how far do you think Brett Baty will be back up with this Mets team? Because he's going to do what he does in AAA and he's going to absolutely rake. I just hope that, again, in the highlights right here, he went oppo today and he ripped one to right. And he hit one off of Sulzer. I could be wrong. It makes me think it's Cole Sulzer that was with the Mets earlier this year. If the Mets lost him, in contract, it could be a different Sulzer. I might be wrong there. But Baty, again, lifts the ball so well at the AAA level, but when facing MLB caliber pitching, he just forgets what to do after a week. He looked awesome in the first couple weeks of the season. Then he had that hamstring injury, and he was, again, slowing down a little bit, but still then, it just feels like Baty, every time he gets this flash of brilliance, it just doesn't stay. And we want it to stay. We want there to be consistency. That is why we hope that by him being sent down in AAA again, we're going to see him get to where he needs to be as an everyday Major League player with his rounded out game. So hopefully, Brett, you're raking at the AAA level, buddy. We just need that to transition MLB level. I'm not asking you to be Barry Bonds out there the way that you are in Syracuse. I'm just asking you to actually know how to lift the ball, drive it consistently, right? I'm asking for a 250 to 265 plus average. I'm asking you to be able to play baseball that goes at a rate of around 20 plus home runs a season and, north of 70 plus RBIs. I'm not asking for a lot from you, Brett. And I am looking for hopefully a 750 plus OPS. Nothing crazy. I'm not asking for the world. I'm just asking for some competency and consistency. And unfortunately with Baty, that is something that we have yet to find with his overall game. I'm rooting for you, Brett. I'm rooting hard. If you're wondering why I have a soft spot for him, it's because he's a former top prospect. I've been following him literally since day one of him in the minors. There's so much talent there. I know he's went through a lot of early mental struggles with how the Mets, haven't necessarily utilized him because they gave him the keys last year, but he didn't know what to do with it. And unfortunately, he floundered that opportunity the same way that he has now this season. PB says, I don't know, Wardy, not convinced, but he always makes, let's see, he'll be back after London. We'll see if he's back after London. I guess we'll see. It's an insult to compare Baty with an all-around player like David Wright. It's not an insult, Jose, if you just listen to the context. No one's comparing Baty with Wright with their overall game. It's literally comparing Costco to Dollar General. These aren't the same things. I'm saying we've seen Beatty flash the leather so brilliantly at third this year, defensively the best that we have seen since a prime right. Enlighten me on a better defender that we have probably seen at the hot corner from the Mets the way that we've seen Brett Beatty this season. I really don't think you could find much. Todd Frazier, hell no. JD Davis, hell no. I know we've had slivers of utility guys in there, but I'm talking about like truly guys that are playing every single day. I cannot think of one individual there. I think bullpen management today was horrendous. Would I agree? I'm not happy with the way the game ended. So I agree with you to a degree. I think the bullpen stepped up big. I don't think things went well when you shouldn't have had a left either in that ninth inning. That's how I feel. How many times do we have to send him down, though? That's a fair question. And again, I don't know. I wish I had an answer to that. All I know is Brett Beatty has not even played a full season at the AAA level or even half a season at the AAA level. Maybe just getting more consistent reps at the AAA level will do him good when the Mets, again, need more out of him than what they're currently getting. But we'll find out. Same way, everybody, before we get onto your live callers, because I want to take your calls today, let me get this all figured out, too, with my thing. I realize I want this to be a 30, 40-minute show, but for people on replay, it might be probably around an hour at this rate, which I apologize. Just let me get the camera set up, then we'll go forward here. Hold on, everybody. My camera loves to go out of focus, and it does this thing where I have to, like, play a game with it and get it to focus. First on my hat. Can we get there? Can we get there, you schmuck? You gonna work? All right, maybe it's not gonna work. Maybe today's the day. It's just not gonna do the thing I needed to do. Bear with me, everybody. Some Wardy ASMR. There we go. Took forever. Mike, that was a while. My goodness. Alrighty, guys and gals. Before we start to take your callers, let's hear a word from our other amazing sponsor on the channel, as always, that you guys know very, very well, our great friends at BetUS. Because, guys and gals, if you haven't gotten involved today, I really need you to. Because starting this week, we are doing a big giveaway on the channel, and the only way you can enter said giveaway is by signing up to BetUS and just placing one bet, and then just emailing me a screenshot of you doing exactly that. That's all you got to do. It is that simple, folks, and we're giving away an awesome giveaway that I will be officially announcing in the next 24 to 48 hours. But in the meantime, let me tell you guys a little bit about BetUS, because we absolutely hit big yet again. Yesterday, we had a 3-leg parlay. I'll pull it up for you guys right now. Yeah, I don't have it pulled up here because the bet already happened, but I have it available on my phone to show with you all. I'm a big UFC fan. UFC 302 in Newark, New Jersey took place yesterday. It was, again, an underwhelming card, but the final fight was fantastic. Was very happy, with the result. And I had a 3-pick parlay for my fight fans of Randy Brown, Sean Strickland, and Islam Makhachev. I don't know why I'm booking that. Islam Makhachev. I shouldn't butcher that because I literally have watched every freaking fight Islam has had in his young career. We hit. That was 50, and that won us 130 or 131. Awesome stuff there. So, guys, I'm not going to share UFC bets with you all because the next big fight isn't for a little bit. I don't think the next one is till McGregor fights Chandler now this summer, which is exciting. Very, very much looking forward to that. But we will take a quick look here at the upcoming slate of baseball games. Same way that we're going to be hammering a lot on our NBA picks, folks. And yes, I'm going all Mavs, baby. I don't think they're going to sweep, but I'm taking Mavs in 6. Heard it here, folks. If you like to tail my picks, this is the way to do it, everybody. We got the Mets array tomorrow as the moneyline underdog against the Washington Nationals, and I don't blame him. I don't blame him at all. The run line is yet available that we're seeing here for the games tomorrow. So we're just looking at money line, which basically means, again, a team winning or losing outright. But as we take a look here, everybody, prices were insane. The only reason why I didn't go yesterday is because nosebleeds were over 500. I'm less than 2 hours away from Newark, so I really want to go with my brother, especially. But unfortunately, this couldn't happen because your boy doesn't have money to throw like that consistently. I just don't, as much as I would love it. But we got some key games tomorrow that we see here. We got O's, Blue Jays, Cards, Houston. Then we got Padres, Angels. Already some that are sticking out like a sore thumb to me. And again, a not big slate here. Let's go with the following here. I'm going to take out of these matchups, really like the O's because I love my Baltimore Orioles so much. Love the O's against the Blue Jays there. The Blue Jays, again, are playing Vladimir Guerrero Jr. at third base now. I wonder if they're going to try to trade for Pete Alonso. Just some food for thought for a second. Hopefully not. But no less, we see I'm going to take the Orioles money line, and I also like the Houston Astros here against the Cardinals. I know Arenado's been heating up. I know the same applies with Goldie, but it's still the Cardinals, and the Astros have been getting their shit together a little bit. I like this 2-pick parlay. This is what I'm going to be rolling tomorrow, and this, if you put down 20, will win you right around 40. So again, guys, if you would like to tail these picks, just make sure you bet responsibly, bet at your own risk, but make sure, most importantly, you're betting with our great friends at BetUS, who have you covered with all your sports betting needs, including that 125% bonus in the link down below in the description. Thank you all so much in advance, and good luck to everybody that places their bets. But all right, guys, it's that time for live callers right around the hour mark. So again, if I cut this off for people on replay, everybody, my apologies. I don't want to be more long-winded than I already am. We're going to cut things off now for my live callers. I'm going to take as many live callers as I can for the next 20 to 30 minutes. Then we're going to wrap up the show. But everyone that watches on replay and people watching live right now that are leaving, thank you so much. Hit that like and subscribe on your way out. Let me know your biggest takeaway, your biggest frustration from another, not series win, but this time a series